Have you ever just stopped and wondered why we don't all live alone out in the woods somewhere? I mean, it seems simpler, right? But instead, we build these sprawling cities, we form nations, and we create these incredibly complex webs that we call society. And there's a really fundamental reason for all of it, a core trade-off we all make. Let's dig into what that is. You know, this question right here gets to the very heart of the matter. At the end of the day, we're all looking for a way to live our lives without constantly having to look over our shoulders. So what is that one essential thing that we get from being part of a group? Well, that's the puzzle we're going to solve together.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the foundation, our basic need for security. Then we'll look at the actual building blocks, starting with the family and moving outwards. After that, we'll check out the rules that hold it all together, and finally, we'll see where you and I fit into this whole grand design.
So let's start at the very bottom, with the foundation that everything else is built on top of, our shared collective need for security. Seriously, this is the bedrock reason that societies even exist in the first place.
And here it is, the answer to that big question we started with, social security. Now, I'm not just talking about a check you get from the government. In the world of civics, it's a much, much bigger idea. Think of it as the stable, predictable environment that a society creates so that we, its members, can actually live our lives and thrive without being totally paralyzed by fear or uncertainty.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. Just think about Abraham Lincoln's fight to end slavery. At its absolute core, that entire struggle was about establishing social security for millions of people who lived under this constant, crushing weight of fear. It's a powerful, real-world reminder that providing this basic safety is one of the most profound goals a society can possibly have. Okay, so if security is the why, then what's the how? How do we actually build a society that can deliver on that promise? Let's jump into the next part and see how this whole thing is constructed, starting with the smallest, most essential pieces.
Everything, and I mean everything, starts with the family. This is basically society in miniature, right? It's the first place we learn the rules of cooperation, trust, and how to support each other. The exact skills you need to build a larger community. You could say it's the blueprint for everything that comes after.
So from the family, things start to branch out. We expand into other key institutions, schools, religious organizations. They all join the family to create this wider network of stability and support. Each one plays its own unique part in weaving together the fabric of social security. What's super interesting is when you break down what schools actually do. It's not just about math and history, right? Schools are designed to help create well-rounded people, teach us how to actually function as part of a group, and maybe, most importantly, they act as guardians of our culture, passing it down from one generation to the next. Now, having all those building blocks is great, but you need a blueprint to hold them all together in the right way. And for society, that blueprint is the law. This is the formal structure, the official rulebook that says how all the different parts and all the different people are supposed to interact. And here's the absolute key. The law isn't optional. These aren't just helpful suggestions. These are rules backed by the full power of the state, and they apply to everyone. This is what transforms all those informal social customs into a predictable, stable system that we can all count on. So what gives the law its teeth? Well, it's really three things. First, it's made by a government that has the authority to do so. Second, if you break the law, there are real consequences. It's a punishable offense. And third, these rules don't just appear out of nowhere. They often come from deep sources, like religious principles or the combined wisdom of legal experts over centuries. But of course, not all laws are created equal. Let's stick with that building analogy. Think of domestic laws, like traffic rules or property laws, as the rules for how to behave inside the rooms of the building. But constitutional law, that's the actual architectural blueprint for the entire building. It defines what the government can and cannot do. It sets the ultimate limits on its power. So who makes sure that everyone, including the government, is following that master blueprint? In many nations, that's the job of the Supreme Court. It acts as the final judge, the ultimate interpreter, making sure that every other law and government action lines up with the nation's core principles. Take a look at this number, 1929. What on earth could that mean? Well, I'll tell you, it's not a year. It's a phone number. In Sri Lanka, it's the direct hotline for the National Child Protection Authority. This is a perfect, real-world example of law in action, a system created by the state to provide immediate security to some of its most vulnerable people.
Okay, so we've looked at the foundation, we've seen the building blocks, and we've talked about the legal framework. But a building is pretty useless without people in it, right? So where do we fit in? What's our role in keeping this whole system running?
And this is so important. You don't have to be a certain age or have a fancy title to participate. The moment you're part of society, as a student, a worker, a neighbor, you have a role to play in upholding Social Security for everyone. It's a genuine team effort.
So, what does that actually look like day to day? Well, a citizen's duty is to actively push back against things that harm the community, like substance abuse. But what is it not? It is definitely not taking the law into your own hands or attacking people you disagree with, even if they're protesting. Contributing positively means you have to respect the process and the rights of others too. The good news is, you're not in this alone. The state sets up specific institutions whose whole job is to protect your rights and make sure the law is applied fairly. Think of groups like the Human Rights Commission or officials like the Attorney General. They're like the official guardians built right into the system.
So, as we wrap things up here, it's pretty clear that society isn't some random accident. It's this deliberate, incredibly complex structure that we've been building for thousands of years. It starts with the family and scales all the way up to constitutional law. And it's all for one main reason: our collective security. And that, of course, brings us to our final, really critical question. We've established that society is built on a foundation of rules designed to protect us. But what happens when those very